turned 6:01, so we're going to get started this evening. Now call to order the City Council Committee meeting for March 6, 2023. Mr. Harris, would you please begin with the roll call of members?
Yes, Madam President. Mr. Mann.
Here.
Mr. Royal.
Here.
Excuse me. Mr. Cleese.
Here.
Ms. Craig.
Here.
Ms. Diaz.
Here.
Ms. Walsh. And President Baker.
Here. Councilor Walsh is excused this evening. Quick reminders at the top that the meeting is being recorded and live streamed. If you're making any public comment this evening on items, please do so at the microphone and begin with your name and block of residence for the meeting record. Comments are limited to no longer than 3 minutes per speaker per agenda item. And lastly, please take a moment to silence your devices if you're sitting here in the room with us. Our first item of business would be the approval of the minutes of the February 6, 2023 committee meeting. I'll hear a motion.
To approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any council comments on the minutes? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Mann.
Aye.
Mr. Royal.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
And President Baker.
Aye. All right, our first committee meeting this evening is community planning. Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. The first item, we have 2 items on the agenda this evening. First, Administration Resolution 18, amending fees for subdivision and land development review. And I'm not sure who's gonna, Douglas.
Good evening, councilors. So the resolution before you this evening is to amend the fees for the subdivision and land development so that the city can hire a consulting firm to assist with plan reviews for our land development plans. As you are well aware, we have had a boom in development over the last couple of years, or several years in the city, and some of the coordination has become increasingly complex. So we are contracting with a consulting firm to assist with plan review. We will still be involved. All of our staff that have been involved will continue to be involved in reviewing, but we will have additional engineering expertise at the table for that. So as a result, we now need to amend the fee schedule for the land development ordinance so that we can pass those costs on to the developer to pay. So we still have application fees that are being charged to cover staff time, but then there will be hourly billing by the consultant that will be paid to the developer. So the way that will typically work is that an escrow will be paid up front based on the project, and then over time we'll draw that escrow down to cover the costs for the consultant. We think that this is going to be a more effective way for covering our costs as well for city staff, and hopefully will make the process more seamless for the developers too.
Great. So as I was reading through the ordinance, it looks like the city is not having to pay cost to the city. There's none.
That's correct, Councilor.
Okay. Are there any questions from the committee? Any questions from the public?
Tim Stuhldreher, One United Lancaster. How will these costs compare to the cost developers pay now?
It's a little difficult to say because it'll be based on the effectiveness of the design team to submit plans that are in accordance with the city's ordinances. So we'll be charging according to the billable fees and the rates that CS Davidson has provided us, which is the firm that we're contracted with. That's CS Davidson, and they already do construction inspection for the city. And those they've been present at a variety of construction projects around the city, doing construction observation for the Planning Bureau for Land Development. So the exact fees are determined in part by the staff that is assigned by CS Davidson to do the review, and it'll also be based on, the size of the project, how many pages it might be, how long it may take to review, and then how many subsequent submissions there are after that. I can say that the billable fees are, very much in the realm of what other engineering firms in the area charge, and the fees that we have for city staff and the escrow that we're charging are also very much in line with surrounding municipalities.
Let me just try one more stab, like if a project previously was under the old system, let's say I'm reasonably diligent as a developer and the review would have cost $3,000, like under the new system, if it's going to cost $3,200, that's fair. If it's going to cost $10,000, that might be a concern. Is there any way to game that out? And if the answer is no, fair enough.
I'm not sure there is a way to game that out exactly. I will say that there are probably some projects where city staff was providing more time than we could have recouped from our fees. And there are also other situations where, we might have gotten the better end of the deal. But, the goal is to always try to charge according to time spent. And this fee schedule will allow us to do that. And hopefully incentivize all parties to be efficient with their time and the number of submissions that they come back with. I think it's entirely possible that there will be some projects that will be relatively the same cost as they were in the past, but that's a broad generalization and will depend a lot on the complexity of the project.
Well, thank you very much. If there are no further questions, all in favor? I'll
Aye.
make a motion to move this to full council next Tuesday.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And we will move to the second item on the agenda, which I'm sure you're here for too, which is Resolution Number 2023, amending the sewage facilities plan to include Franklin and Stevens redevelopment project.
Yes, thank you, Counselor. So this is a project, the title reads maybe a little bit, it's a little bit misleading. This is 640 South Franklin Street, and this is a redevelopment by Thaddeus Stevens. This is the former Shell property, Shell recycling facility. And Thaddeus Stevens purchased that from the city in the past, from the Redevelopment Authority, and is interested in redeveloping it through their single-family housing program, where they will build single-family or duplex housing for sale. And the first step in doing that is creating a subdivision for that project. So anytime there is a subdivision where there was not sewage capacity allocated, then we now have to do that through the state's process. So we are currently reviewing a simple subdivision plan that is taking basically the entire area of the former Shell recycling area, and it's creating two lots from it, one large lot and one small lot. And that small lot is where they plan to do their first house in the series. They have not yet received land development approval for all of these, for all of this vision. We're currently working through that with them. But this isn't very much in line with, the comprehensive plan and our capacity to provide sewer for the project. So I don't think we're getting ahead of ourselves too much and getting this started with the state. As you know, it takes many months to get this back. And in the meantime, we are currently reviewing their subdivision plan for that.
Thank you. So when they go to develop the rest of the property, they'll have to come back for sewer plans then, or will this cover all that they need to do? Or most of it?
That's a good question, Counselor. It's my understanding that they will have to come back for the additional houses.
Thank you. Are there questions from the committee? Any questions from the public?
I guess my question to you My name is Ivan Acosta Vélez. I live at 804 Highland Avenue. Mi nombre es Iván Acosta Vélez. Vivo en el 804 de la Highland. Question to you. Of these houses that they're building, how many are going to be for our minority citizens? And be careful how you answer that, because the ones that they did already is not minority owned. Okay, so I'm very concerned about that, because now you're coming into our community, and they're part of our community. We welcome them. But how many of these homes that'll be fresh, new, painted, everything, no lead, poisoning, everything is correct? How many of these we're going to assure as a city and as administration that we're going to make sure that some of the people in the South End are first dibbers at it? Not that we give it to them, but they have a chance. How are we going to know that? And how can Stevens Technical College, confirm that that will happen?
The housing certainly, just by being created in this area, is helping to serve the area of the Southeast. Housing, it's my understanding, cannot be assigned to buyers by race or by religion or by ethnicity. This would be in violation of the Fair Housing Act. However, we have had conversations with Thaddeus Stevens about affordability of these houses, and I apologize, I'm actually not prepared to speak to that point this evening. Since this did come through the Redevelopment Authority, I would have to double check our notes as to whether all of these units are required to be affordable or not. I just don't have that information at the tip of my fingers right now, but I can follow up on that and get back to you with that information. In the past, the Thaddeus Stevens homes have been sold at market rate. They have two additional units that they're developing on the corner just behind this on Schuylkill and South Marshall, actually. And that was a duplex that they're actually building right now, a semi-detached set of single-family homes, and those will be market rate. But I will double-check on the affordability status of these units. And,
Yes, could you?
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, and then, we'll have a phone call or to follow up or email or something.
Sure.
Can I just correct something? And I'm being very honest with you. I'm not saying save it for Puerto Ricans. I'm not saying save it for blacks. I'm saying for the people from the Southeast area. And you made a statement, so I want to correct it. Okay? How many of these homes is the city committed so it will be for our people? And I say for our people, people could live. There's white people that live in our area that can't afford it. And that's what I'm saying. How many of these people, okay, as we call them these people, they're not these people, they're my neighbors, are you going to do? And every time we're gonna, I don't want no more gonna, okay? Are we gonna do 15 of the houses? Are we gonna do 10 of the houses after 35 houses? What can we do to make sure that there's home ownership? Please, and that's my question.
Yes, I think I understand your question. I believe you're asking, I think you're going to need to be a little more specific when you say our people, my people. Are you asking him to divide by race, neighborhood?
No. Southeast. Then I'm clearing it. That's why I came back for the question.
Okay,
because he made a statement, and maybe he confused, or maybe myself I was confused. Okay, but then I'll ask the question again. My question to the administration: how many of these homes are we going to help the Southeast neighbors, members, for them to have a shot at it?
So apologies if I didn't answer the question the first time. I thought I was asked about the minority status of the buyers. So that was the point I addressed. But if we're asking about where people live at the time that they buy these houses, for instance, if they live in the Southeast, are they allowed to buy this house? Certainly, on an open market, they would be permitted to do so. I'm not aware of. I don't believe it is legal for us to restrict the buyers to only a particular area of the city. So if there is someone from out of state or someone in the Northeast or something that wants to buy these houses, I believe that would be permissible. However, I just need to get back to you about the affordability restriction, because that may be a condition and often is for redevelopment authority properties when they're sold.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Welcome.
Are there any further questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll make a motion, we move this to full council on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Council President. That will conclude community planning for this evening.
Thank you, Counselor Craig. Our next item is the Public Works Committee. Counselor Walsh is absent this evening. Counselor Kalix, would you please lead that committee this evening?
Yes, Madam President, thank you. So, the Public Works Committee has only one item on the agenda for tonight. It's the Administration Resolution Number 19, 2023, authorizing a reimbursement agreement for a bike share grant. So this is a resolution adopted by Council to authorize the submission of a request for the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation to provide up to $96,800 reimbursement to the city for the bike share program. So it's a reimbursement agreement with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation to use congestion mitigation and air quality improvement for this program. So I see Director Campbell here. Would you please address that?
Yes, good evening, Council. Thank you for having me to be able to discuss a little bit this particular resolution. The intention here, excuse me, the intention here is to be able to seek the reimbursement funds for the bike share program, which would allow us this year to approximately double the number of bikes and bike stations available to those who utilize bike share. The bike share as a reimbursement program is one where it is a grant, but it is a grant that draws down based on usage. Our bicycle usage has been generally ever increasing, especially towards the tail end of this past year. There have been some significant increases in ridership and usership of the bike share program. And what we've discovered is that key obstacles to bike share usage are the availability and location of some of the bike share stations, as well as clarity in the instruction. So what this would do by doubling the number of bike share stations, it would make bike share available within approximately a quarter of a mile of most of the residents of the city of Lancaster. We've also reached out to some of the other organizations that are the sponsors that also co-pay for this program, LGH, Millersville University, NFNM University, as well as Cargas. These are entities that currently use the bike share program relatively often. So the intention here is to be able to make it more available. It's an affordable way for people to commute. Nearly 60% of the ridership use it for less than 30-minute trips, which suggests that much of this ridership is actually for commuting purposes. And by being able to increase the number and locations of the riders, of the bike stations, we're hoping that we'll continue to increase not only that ridership, but increase the network, the ever-increasing network of bikes and bike share that is currently in the county of Lancaster.
Okay, thank you, Director Campbell. But one question, just with the purpose to educate our city residents, what is the purpose of this program and how will it benefit the city residents?
It provides an affordable or a low-cost alternative to either Uber, owning a car, owning other kinds of transportation. It's a means of being able to get to work or to your destination without spending extraordinary amounts of money. For 30 minutes, you can spend perhaps anywhere from 75 cents to $2 to use the system.
And what is the timeline of this program?
Generally speaking, this is for 1 full year. We've done it in the past. We had, previously, we had the system and the sponsor or the entity that was running the system went out of business in early 2021. We switched to a new company called Tandem, and the numbers have been ever increasing since then. They have an improved and easier to use interface for users. You're not limited to using an app, but the interface is much easier to use with Tandem, and they're a more robust organization.
So we know that some people don't really have access to the internet, and how will it be implemented, the program? How will it be managed?
So the Tandem, the organization that does do the management, it could be managed by an app, a handheld app, or you use your credit card. And I know not everybody has a credit card, but these are the ways that this kind of technology is made available at present.
Thank you, Director Campbell. Any other questions from the committee? Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Director Campbell, how many bike share stations are in the city?
We currently have 6 bike share stations with approximately 5 bikes at each station. So we have, technically we have 30 openings, but there's 25 bikes. This would bring us to 12 bike stations and 50 bikes.
Okay, that was my next question. Thank you.
Any other questions from, please, go ahead, Councilor.
Yes.
I just wanted to find out how, I know this could happen, but has there been any reports of theft of these bikes, even though they probably won't be used because they're controlled digitally, if I'm not mistaken?
I am aware anecdotally that there have been thefts, but the system is insured. So if there are thefts, there's no charge to the city for any of those losses. And they are aggressively sought after. There are tracking devices on each of the bikes, so that if someone does in fact steal a bike or mislay a bike, it is easy to find. There are occasions, for instance, if I don't want to cast shade on anybody, where bike share bikes have been found nowhere near a bike docking station. But that's partly because the chip that's in the bike allowed it to be found. With some repair, that could be put back in service. But I am certainly not aware that we have lost any bikes. If they've been stolen, they've been found.
Thank you.
Any other questions from members of the committee? From council as a whole? From the public?
Mr. Campbell, my name is Ivan Acosta Velez, 804 Highland Avenue. Have we got together with Red Rose? Because I am aware that in Boston, the subway system and stuff connects, and people that don't have cards or the thing, they can go there and buy something that they can put on the system to get the bike. So if we're not, can we do that?
It is a very good question. I and Director Delfs are also on a couple of different transportation committees where the ability to develop what we call multimodal access is either not only under discussion, but in a couple of cases has been able to be made possible. The multimodals in question are the Amtrak, the Circulator, the Red Rose Circulator, the Red Rose regular bus system, the Lancaster Parking Authority, as well as the bike system. It is not yet the case that one could go, say, online and buy a bike access and have it transferable to Red Rose, but those types of things are currently under discussion so that we have what we want to call seamless multimodal transit.
Thank you. Any other questions from the public? Hearing none, now I'll make a motion to move this resolution number 19, 2023 to our full council meeting on the 14th.
So move.
All in favors?
Aye.
Thank you. That concludes the Public Works Committee, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Councilor Calixte. We move to our Economic Development Committee. Councilor Arroyo.
Thank you, Council President. We have one item on the agenda this evening, an update regarding the Community Facilities Request for Proposals funded by the American Rescue Plan Act funds. As a reminder, these are funds that Council allocated $5 million to fund projects that met the qualifying criteria. Since closing the application stage, we received 22 applications requesting over $29 million to support projects totaling over $74 million. A review committee consisting of elected officials and city staff have reviewed all proposals and are working through some remaining questions regarding projects and contract details that are currently being evaluated by city staff and our consultant, PFM. While we were hoping to bring recommendations for funding to council in March, the evaluation of final questions is not yet complete, and we're hoping to bring the recommendations to council in April. That concludes my update. Happy to answer any questions from the committee or full council.
Councilor Arroyo. Thank you, sir. For those who may have incomplete applications or applications that may not be approved, are they going to be reached out to as well and notified if their application is not being moved forward with?
Yeah, all participants will know once we make the award announcement in April whether or not they've been awarded the dollars.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from council? From the public?
My name is Ivan Acosta Velez. My question is, we keep on extending this. How about the projects that we can fund already? What are we going to do with that? We're going to continue to next April? We're saying March, we're saying January. What are we doing with the projects that are ready to run? And run means ready to go. We're sure going to do it in April now?
That's the goal, yes.
Yeah, because you keep on extending it and it doesn't get done.
Well, this was actually the first extension.
Well, I remember they were supposed to give the application in January, and there was another extension, whatever, because there wasn't enough people
Well, you might
applying.
you might be referring to the affordable housing RFP. This is for the community facilities RFP, which the intention was to announce in March, so this is our first extension into April.
Okay, so can we run with the projects that are ready to go?
Yep, the goal
Or
is
April? Okay.
Yep.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Arroyo. We'll look for those in April. The next committee is Public Safety. Councilor Diaz.
Thank you, President. For the Safety Committee, we have Administration Resolution 16-2023, authorizing the destruction of silent police police records. And we do have one of our distinguished officer here that may have any questions from council. I am aware that some of these records that are going to be destroyed are related to either citations, daily activity records, complaints, reports, office reports, initially activity reports, motor vehicle records, and uniform crime records. And at this point, now I'm personally wanted just to ask you one question. What would you say that uniform crime reports are?
So we are required, that's the statistics that we keep for the state and federal government, the uniform crime reporting. So that's basically, those are, reports are compiled by our records division to say like how many homicides were in January, how many robberies were in January. So that's not those reports themselves, that's just a compilation of what those reports, total of what those reports would have been for a period of time.
Thank you. Is there, I'm sure that there might be a few of you that may have questions regarding this resolution. Anybody from the committee?
I'm not on the committee, but I have a question.
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Diaz. How far back are the records, how far back do the records go that they want to destroy that are obsolete?
So I'll go over the list that we have. The citations, traffic citations and non-traffic citations are 2018 and 2019. We're required to keep 3 years of paper copies of those. So anything that's past that 3 years, all of these things are, we have certain requirements that we have to, we'll have, keep records of. So we'll have scanned copies of most of these. I can't speak to every specific one, like the UCRs. I don't know that I'm not sure. But our record supervisor is very up to speed on what the legal requirements are for what we have to keep as far as paper versus scanned copies. So we would have scanned copies of these things as well. This is just the paper copies. So the citations, we have to keep it for 3 years, so we're looking to destroy 2018 and 2019. The daily activity records, we have to keep those for 3 years. So we're looking at 2018, 2019 for some things, and then 2020 for others. So we would still be within that, outside of that 3 years. The incident reports, we're looking to destroy 2013. That date is when we switched over to our current records management system, and everything that we have now, we don't have paper reports anymore. Everything is done digitally on the computer in our CODI records management. So that's why we have that one so far back, because that one we're required to keep 3 years as well, but we don't have any paper copies of anything past 2013. Accident reports, we have to keep for 5 years. So we're looking to destroy 1987 through 2011. And some of these, there was just a backlog with how reports were scanned and uploaded into our digital database. And again, our new records management, our records supervisor has been doing a lot of trying to get our processes more efficient. And that's why that one's going back to 1987. They just weren't entered before. And then the UCR reports were required to keep 2 years. So we're looking to do 2007 through 2019 for those.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor
Please,
Diaz?
Councilor, thank you.
Councilor Khalid?
Oh,
Go ahead.
you want-
Just to clarify on something that you mentioned in your response to the last question, these are the paper documents that we're talking about. The scanned documents live on.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
So I think my questions go, to the same direction. What types of record are considered, to be obsolete under this resolution, and how were they determined to be obsolete?
Yeah, it's just the age of them. So aside, for all the different things we have, like statutes of limitations, there's only, for certain crimes, you can only prosecute back 2 years. So we're required to keep certain things for 2 years. Traffic citations, non-traffic, typically your appeal process you'd want that paper copy for an appeal. If someone would make an appeal, if they were found guilty at the MDJ or at summary appeals, you'd want that paper copy for documentation for court. Once you're outside of that period of time, the state has decided that you don't need to keep, it's not practical to keep paper copies of everything. So the obsolete part is basically just you're outside of the appeals process or outside of the time frame and when the state would say it's pertinent to keep that, and you don't need to keep the paper copy for court or evidentiary value any longer.
And how does that benefit the police department?
It's not practical to maintain actual paper copies of the volume of reports that we take. It's just not practical to maintain from a space perspective to keep all of the paper copies when we have digital copies that we can, as a PDF, that we can access if we need to, for whatever reason, refresh our memories or go back and look for something.
And how will the destruction will be carried out?
So I'm not 100% sure. So I believe it's going to be, with most of our outdated evidence, it's taken by our evidence techs and documented and taken to the incinerator. I would assume it would be something similar to that with this, but I'm not 100% certain.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Councilor.
Any other questions?
Councilor Diaz, if I may.
Go ahead.
So just to be clear, there wouldn't be any sensitive or internal, disciplinary documents that would be destroyed?
Correct. And that there's another set of requirements for that with, as far as keeping track of those things that would not be, none of that stuff is involved in this part of it.
Thank you.
Any questions from the public? Then I will go ahead and make a motion to move this to March 14th, 2023.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And then we have resolution number 17, 2023, authorizing a grant application to the Auto Theft Prevention Authority.
You got it, yes. Wing it if you want me.
Good evening, Council. So this is for an auto theft prevention grant, which is something we get every year from a state agency or a state funding source. So we get it every 2 years to fund our auto theft detective unit. We've done this since 2002. And the grant covers the salary and benefits of 2.5 full-time equivalent staff. It's 2 full-time detectives and a part-time sergeant in the Bureau, and then program costs associated with the program. And then the grant also covers the half of the salary and benefits of the county assistant district attorney who works on auto theft cases. So this grant has to be renewed every 2 years, and the resolution on the agenda tonight is actually to enter into an intermunicipal agreement with the county to pay the portion of the grant intended for the ADA to the county. This will be good for the term of the new grant, which is July 1, 2023, for 2 years to June 30 to 2025. Our solicitor and the county DA have both approved this agreement, and it's set to go to the commissioners for approval tomorrow.
Any questions from the committee? Any questions from full council? Okay, go ahead, Faith.
Thank you, Councilor Diaz. So, am I hearing that the grant covers the salary of the detectives that work on the auto theft that happens in the city and in the county, and also covers the salary of the district attorney?
It just covers the salary of the detectives who work in the city, and then the ADA who's associated with that on the prosecuting side for the city cases. So it's just for city investigations, not for county investigations.
So the city police force is not involved in auto.
They are. So the grant helps to pay for 2.5 of our staff in the auto theft prevention program, the detective unit, essentially. And then a portion of the grant will go to the district attorney's office to compensate half the time for the assistant district attorney who works on these cases. And that's what the intermunicipal agreement is for.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Counselor Diaz.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Just out of curiosity, do any other municipalities receive these types of funds and pay in similarly to the county?
I don't know the answer to that. Do you, Captain? We can find out for you for
Just curious.
14th.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Then any questions from the public?
When you say half of the salary, you have to give a number of how many half is. Are they going to do 12 cases, 35 cases, 400 cases? If we're paying half for their salary, how much are they helping the detectives in that unit? That's what I would like to know.
I don't have a breakdown of the actual numbers of cases that they'll cover, but it is a full half of their time commitment. And I think the way that budgets are set for the police and the district attorney's office are based on volume and how we respond to the volume of needs in the community. That being said, the total amount of the pass-through is approximately $42,000 the first year. Again, this is a pass-through, so the city is not paying any of these funds out of city funds. We're actually the recipient of the total grant is about $810,000 over 2 years. So it's a great support to the city and city residents to help solve crimes against city residents. And so it's a great benefit to city residents. The piece that we're passing through to the county ADA is just $42,000 for the first year and then up to 47,000 the second year. And that is all based on the account and budgeting process of the assistant district, or of the district attorney's office, which is another publicly elected entity, separate from city government.
The follow-up on that question is, if we're paying 42,000 and they're serving us, amen. But with that amount, can we get another police officer or a couple more hours? Because the county is not providing anything. And that's what I'm concerned. It's coming as a grant. And I know, is that set on stone, the grant? Is that what they tell us we have to do? Or do we play and tell them this is what we're gonna do with the grant? And I think that'll answer my question.
I think the grant is formulaic, and that we need to have ADA support on these to actually prosecute the crimes and hold criminals accountable. So that's a required element of the grant. And in my understanding, we have a very productive history of working together with the district attorney's office on these matters.
I have a question. It might suit you. In regards to the numbers of theft, auto theft, that could be related to criminal stealing, whatever it would be. Can you tell me roughly, like, let's say last year, what was the amount? I know it's probably something that you may have to look at, but I'm just curious to like how much time they have spent.
Yeah, I cannot provide a number at this point. I can research that and get to you. I'm not involved in the record keeping for those cases, so
Okay.
I can find out.
Yes, I'm just curious. Because we do have, so many shootings, which lately it's been like every other week or something. So, is that part of that particular auto theft, which does occur sometimes where they just grab a car, they go shoot somebody, and then they drop it somewhere else. But I was just kind of curious to see what the load was and the hours spent.
Yeah, I can find that out for you, but I don't have that.
That
readily
would be great. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much. If there is no other questions, I would like to go ahead and move this forward to March 14, 2023's meetings.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that's all I have, Ms. President.
Don't they say this is going to county tomorrow? Don't you have to vote on this now? I just heard isn't that what you said, that it's going to be approved in county? So don't we have to approve it here?
So I believe the order of operations is the intermunicipal agreement portion needs to be signed off by both entities, and I'm assuming that we would wait until after we vote to sign our end of it.
Which would be brought then on the 14th.
The 14th.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor Diaz. All right, we move then to the Finance Committee. Counselor Ahmed.
Thank you, Council President. The Finance Committee does have one agenda item, which is the legislative budget transfer for codification costs. So this budget transfer would move $3,500 from the unemployment compensation line item to the city clerk budget to cover the update to the costs of codification. This is pretty self-explanatory, but Director Hopkins, do you have any further?
Yeah, the only thing to add there is that there were, I think it was 4 large ordinances that were adopted last year. There was a subdivision, land development, stormwater, water, and sewer ordinances that let's say the volume of the codification was significantly higher during 2022 than it was in prior years. We had a budgeted line item of, I think it was $6,500 in the 23 budget, because that would have covered the normal amount of codification. I think the bill came in, or the estimate came in somewhere around $11,000. So Mr. Harris was making some moves among some line items in the city clerk budget and city council budget, but as you all know, there's not a whole lot there. So this $3,500 just covers what can't be covered for those additional costs within the city clerk and city council budgets.
Thank you. And with this transfer, it would bring the city clerk budget to $10,000. If it's $11,000, where would that remaining $1,500 come from?
So that's where, all this is doing is moving that $3,500. And the reason this comes in front of city council is because we're moving dollars from one department budget to another department. The codification line already had 6,500. This is an additional 3,500 to bring it up to 10. And then Mr. Harris, I believe, was going to move somewhere in the neighborhood of about $3,000 from other line items in the city clerk or city council budget into that line.
And this won't affect our unemployment compensation line item.
No, we're self-insured for unemployment compensation. We have not had very many claims at all. Obviously, over the last several years, we don't really anticipate. Yeah, we always have a budgeted, some amount budgeted in there. I think we've had 10,000 budgeted in there for a number of years. We actually haven't spent any of it over the last several years. So if it would come up that there were an unemployment compensation claim and we had to expend more than that $6,500 that'll remain, we would find that money somewhere else within the administrative services budget.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions from the committee? Questions from council? Are there any questions from the public? Hearing none, I make a motion to move this legislative budget transfer for codification costs to our full council on the 14th.
Second.
We do have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this concludes the Finance Committee. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilor Ahmed. Our last item is the Committee of the Whole. We have one item on the agenda this evening. I'm proud to be introducing Resolution Number 15, 2023 this month, recognizing March as Women's History Month in the city of Lancaster. This is a similar resolution that we brought forth last year. Nationally, March has been Women's History Month since, I believe, 1987. And I just think it's important to note that while we do have one member absent, as far as we could research, this is the first time that we've had a majority of women serving on council. And the first time, for sure, that we've had a woman as the president, vice president of council, mayor, and chief of staff. So we are celebrating, making a bit of history here in the city of Lancaster ourselves. And Women's History Month this year celebrates women who tell our stories. So we'll be excited to welcome some of them at our next meeting. I'll take any other council comments on the resolution. Comments from the public. Hearing none, then I will proudly make a motion to move this resolution to our March 14th meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. I'll look forward to discussing this again. Then, having reached the end of our agenda, we'll move to the clerk's report. Mr. Harris.
Yes, Madam President. Of course, I delivered my report to you in writing, but some of the highlights here. I delivered to the clerk of the County Board of Elections a certified copy of Administration Resolution Number 2, 2023, which authorizes the Study Commission question to be added to the city's primary election ballot. And I wrote the minutes of the two related special meetings related to home rule. Under research and writing, I reported on the right to know request from Scranton for our curb and sidewalk ordinance, and to the city of Williamsport was inquiring about council salaries. I facilitated a response to the Allentown clerk with information regarding our condemnation process for blighted properties. I corresponded with the code provider regarding an issue on the posting of public documents, which has since been corrected. And I wrote and edited the Black History Month resolution, which was adopted on the 14th. I retrieved from the binder our 2022 council yearbook, which is costing us an extra $10 this year because it was so thick. And that's now on the shelf of the council archives.
I attended the Parking Authority meeting on the 23rd and sent you a summary of that. I continue collecting statements of financial interest, and recently it's been from candidates as well as solicitors and city employees. And there have been various miscellaneous tasks that I've also completed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harris, and thank you for all the work that you do for us. Having concluded our meeting business, I will hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.